Driving in China is a mix of challenges and conveniences, shaped by the country's unique rules, roads, and driving habits. But compared to Western countries, driving here can feel more aggressive. Drivers don't always follow lane rules, use turn signals, or give way to others. On top of that, scooters, electric bikes, and pedestrians often move in and out of traffic, making things even more unpredictable. Driving in China is quite a different experience for several reasons, especially the way Chinese people drive. In that matter, China still have some stuff to do to educate their drivers. For example, you will never see anybody passing a red light on a traffic light, right? They always respect the red light, which is great. But when it comes, for example, to these e-bikes or bikes, perhaps the regulations are a little bit blurred in that matter, because it tends to be a little bit messy, especially in cities like Guangzhou or Beijing. Defensive driving is very important in China. You need to expect the unexpected and always be ready to slow down or change lanes quickly. People might suddenly cut you off, and it's not unusual to see cars making U-turns in the middle of a highway. Scooters and electric bikes come from all directions, often ignoring traffic rules, and some pedestrians cross streets even when the light is red. Here you need to be a little bit extra careful. You need to drive for yourself, and then you also need to be very aware, because sometimes people don't really respect too much the traffic signs or the traffic laws. So they just cut the line, they just change the lane in a very fast way that doesn't give you the chance to brake and slow down. And that's quite dangerous here. So that's kind of things that you need to be super cautious about. But on the bright side, China has built a lot of excellent roads, especially in big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. Highways and expressways are wide, well-maintained, and connect many places. However, you often have to pay tolls to use them. We're about to enter one of the latest infrastructure transportation projects, one of the most impressive ones here in southern China. Hybrid between tunnels and bridges. It's called the Shenzhen-Zhongshan Link, and we're entering now the tunnel part. Later we're gonna get out to the surface again, like in the middle of the sea, through this kind of amazing structure that takes you out and it converts into a tunnel. Getting a driver's license in China as a foreigner is generally straightforward and convenient, especially if you already have a valid driver's license from your home country. There are some requirements that a foreigner needs to apply for the driver's license in China. If you're interested, you can stop the video here and make a screenshot of this list. Getting the driver's license was not that complicated. So you have two options. If you have your home country driver's license, you can do kind of like a validation process. Then you don't need to do the practical test. You just need to do the computer test. If you don't have your driver's license, then you need to do both. A 1-year temporary driver's license is an option available to foreigners who are staying in the country for a short period and do not wish to go through the full process of obtaining a standard Chinese driver's license. Depending on where you live, major cities often experience heavy traffic, especially during rush hours. Traffic jams are common, so as a driver, you will need some patience. The traffic situation in China also might vary depending on the city. Like, for example, Shenzhen is a very well-planned city. That's where I live. So yeah, you find some traffic jams in some peak hours. But that's it. Most of the time when you're driving around the city, unless there's like a traffic accident, you wouldn't find that much traffic jam. I think the roads, they're super well designed, very spacious. Connectivity here is not a problem. The thing is, I've driven before in Guangzhou. It's quite chaotic. Beijing also, Shanghai also. Those are the situations in big cities here in China where these cities are quite big. When they were planned, they were not planned for cars. They were planned in a different way. So Right now, when you drive in those cities, no matter what time of the day, most of the time you'll find traffic jams. I'm quite happy to be living in a city like Shenzhen that is very modern, young, and well planned, rather than a city like Guangzhou, which is quite messy when it comes to like the traffic situation.
Roads in major cities are generally in excellent condition. They are well paved, wide, and well maintained.
Roads in China are very well maintained. I have the chance to like travel all around China, and in general, they're very, very well maintained. It's incredible the job they're doing, not just maintaining, but expanding the roads and the highway network here in China. They probably have a lot to do in smaller cities, but when it comes to this new infrastructure, they're top notch.
Driving in the countryside is usually slower and calmer than in big cities, but it comes with its own challenges. Pass other cars on narrow roads or even drive at night without headlights. This means you have to stay careful and watch out for unexpected moves.
Driving habits of drivers in small towns, oh my god, it's really challenging to be there. But I guess perhaps they behave in a less civilized way. People before didn't really have access to buying a car. Actually, buy a car was a privilege back in time, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now, more and more people is having access to buy a car. They are like cheaper, they are making better technologies, they're made here in China. Like all these Chinese companies are amazing, making EVs. So more people are having access to purchase cars. You need like 4 or 5 times more awareness than you might need in a city like Shenzhen.
But there is a certain group of drivers you should really pay attention to in China.
I have a list of drivers that I'm really not scared or afraid, but I need to be like extremely cautious. And these are bus drivers, taxi drivers, Didi drivers, which is kind of like Uber, and truck drivers. All these people behind the wheels are quite dangerous, I have to say.
While many signs include pictograms or universal symbols that are easy to understand, others rely heavily on Chinese characters, which can be confusing for non-Chinese speakers.
Also, maybe if you're a foreigner in China trying to read the signs, the traffic signs, or the places, the distances, they all use mostly Chinese characters. They don't all use English letters. And if they do, it's probably pinyin. Perhaps might be challenging for some people, especially if you're not familiar with Mandarin. You need to be extra careful. That's probably the most challenging part as a foreigner driving in China.
China has one of the most intensive surveillance systems for drivers. Speeding, what? Running a red light, illegal lane change, most likely than not, these cameras will get you.
Traffic laws in China are pretty strict, and especially because the controls are becoming tighter. There are a lot of cameras on the roads checking, the way people drive. And I got a ticket once. It was just like 200 renminbi that I paid, and one of my points, because you get a 12 points system here. When you get a ticket, they will start discounting these points from you. But I guess next year I will get my 12 points again. Right now I have 11.
But if you've been driving for a while, you won't feel it too different when doing so in China.
Driving here is pretty straightforward. There are not many differences when it comes to laws and rules from driving in the West, driving in the US, or driving in South America, like in my case. Perhaps some just like need to pay more attention on the road, because sometimes the configuration of the roads here are quite different, quite weird, especially in old areas of cities. Other than that, speed limits, changing lanes, traffic lights is all pretty much the same than any other country in the world.
哦，吃奶可以了。
I've seen some cases of road rage here. Most of these cases are like small, not that significant. It wouldn't end up in like in a traffic accident or anything like that. But I've seen some footage and videos of crazy people driving or people driving in a very crazy way here in China. And I've seen also some videos of pretty serious car accidents, traffic accidents here in China.
Foreigners can certainly buy a car in China, but the process involves specific requirements such as a valid residence permit, Chinese driver's license, and a proof of residence.
Buying a car in China is not that difficult. Actually, for the process to buy this car, the Xiaomi, was also quite simple. Everything was done through an app. All the payments, when I booked the car, the down payment, everything was done through the app, and it was very, very easy. And I guess now it's becoming easier and easier since the government is trying to stimulate the buying of cars.
Renting a car in China is a convenient option for foreigners, especially for short-term stays or travel. However, there are specific requirements and challenges to be aware of.
Renting a car is a different situation because, again, if you're going to drive here in China, you need the Chinese driver's license. So if you're renting a car because you're visiting, you probably will not going through the process of applying for a driver's license here. But if you live here, it's quite straightforward as well, very easy. We did it a couple of times before using an app. Like any other country, it's just very simple to do. Just need the information about your driver's license and your ID or your passport, and that's it.
While in China, for short-term stays or travel within cities, public transport is usually the most convenient choice.
For me, for the first half of my life in China, I was always using public transportation in a city like Shenzhen where everything is so convenient and well connected and the transportation infrastructure is top-notch. Public buses, subway, even taxis. Everything works really good and the whole city is very well connected. Now, if you really want to go for a car, that might mean that your life will be more convenient. I, for example, decided to move to a little bit farther away place from the downtown of the city. The subway still reaches that far. I can still move by subway, but nothing actually compares to the freedom and the convenience that a car might give you to go anywhere. Plus, the fact that this is an electric car is way cheaper than just, putting gas.
China is the world's largest market for EVs, and the government has implemented policies and infrastructure to support their adoption.
The charging network in China is very convenient. It's very extensive. You find chargers anywhere in every city, big or small. So no matter where you go, you still have the options to charge the car. Also, the charging port standards for the cars in China is the same for all the brands, meaning that all these charging network in China might work for any model. For example, this car has two ports. One is a fast charger and the other one is a slow one, the regular one. So that means even more options for charging the car. So it's just very convenient.
Now, some advices if you want to rent or drive a car in China.
My advice to anyone who wants to drive in China for the first time is, of course, number one is just get your driver's license because it's actually against the law to be behind the wheel without a proper Chinese driver's license. International driver's licenses are not accepted in China, so you must go through the local process to apply for a Chinese driving license.
Drinking and driving in China is strictly prohibited and carries severe penalties. The Chinese government has implemented laws and enforcement measures to combat drunk driving, which is considered a serious offense.
Maybe some people, and also it depends on the country, is accepted to drive with some alcohol levels on your blood, but here the limit is 0. It's not acceptable at all. It's a big issue if you drive after drinking. So that is completely forbidden, so forget about doing that.
Folks, I'm gonna be wandering around nice and beautiful places here in China and documenting about it. I will also be Instagramming my day-to-day and my trips in this awesome country. Feel free to follow me and leave your comments and impression over there about life in China. I will leave the link to my account in the description down below. Remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell button so you don't miss any of my follow-up stories about what's going on in this part of the world. If you think there might be someone else interested in these kind of videos, please consider sharing. My name is Rafael, thanks for watching, and stay safe until next time.